together. The amount of the mortgage on this house is $362,549.54. We bought this house in April 2025, and our mortgage balance then was $364,500. So we've made a little progress. But like I said,
I was shocked when I bought my house. She bought the house sometime last year, made the video, I believe, this year, and has only gone down by $2,000. Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Raymond. I'm a realtor in Maryland and the District of Columbia. And today we're going to react to a video. This is regarding being house poor, just the affordability issue, right? Without further ado, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe because that's how you help the channel grow. But let's get right into it.
Do I regret buying a home? Hell yeah, I do. Now, before I dive into it, let me just say, being able to buy a home, huge privilege, right? And I actually bought it in an area that's a lower cost of living compared to where I'm originally from in LA. And I also bought it with a friend, so we split the cost of it, and we're converting it into rental property.
LA is expensive, but that's almost everywhere. Everywhere is very expensive now. That's a good idea, splitting the rent or mortgage with a friend, almost like a business partner. The only downside I would say right there is you gotta be careful with who you partner up with. Said a friend, so hopefully they stay friends, but sometimes some things that do hinder businesses or friendships and partnerships are these joint ventures, you know. Being friends is one thing. When you buy a house together, that's another. Another thing they mentioned is they plan on doing the Airbnb thing. House hacking by yourself is kind of good, but hopefully they're on board. They're both on the same page. Let's keep watching.
Namely for Airbnb. But let me tell you why I regret buying it. After dropping a ton of money to acquire the home, dropping a ton of money in renovations, and then actually running the Airbnb, we're still largely net negative. We started the Airbnb in July of last year.
He's saying after they dropped a lot of money in renovations and everything, they're running a net negative. So that is a business strategy thing, not getting your numbers right. Also, the Airbnb market is not what it once was. Once upon a time, it was really booming. That has died down a little bit. There are still some homes that are doing well, but it's not where it once was. Keep that in mind. Get your numbers right. Talk to a professional who's done it before. Sometimes you might have to pay for consultation. Just get a financial planner that can get you good numbers. You know, in LA, homes tend to appreciate in value over time. If that trend continues, he might come out on the positive, even if the Airbnb is not working out, right? Let's keep going.
Last year in 2025, and till now, we are negative 12K in the hole. This is the rental income minus operating expenses like utilities, maintenance, cleaners, and stuff like that. And this is minus mortgage and property taxes. And the thing that honestly kills me is at this point in time, had I done nothing with my money but just left it in the stock market and my high yield savings account, I would be way better off. Now, I know some of you might be thinking,
so that's always a question. What's the best way to utilize my money? If you can have money to do renovations and purchase a home in LA, you gotta think you should be a little well off, right? And just think about that in the stock market. The stock market has fluctuated with the Iran war. One day things go up, the next day they go down, but overall it's kind of been a steady climb. The big crash hasn't happened just yet. Here's what I'll say: just get a financial advisor to tell you the best strategy. If you got some money and you're looking, should I do an investment property? Should I put the money in the stock market? Just talk to a financial planner and let them do what they do. But the thing about real estate, sometimes you gotta play the long game. It's ironic he's talking about stocks. Stocks you know, most people that win with stocks tend to play the long game. You do have day traders. You got bots now that can trade with AI and all of that. God knows how that's going. But the stock market over time, even with the depression, the Great Depression and the recession, over time average has gone up, right? And average about 8 to 9% a year. So that tends to be a long game as well. I'll leave the link down to this content creator right here in the description down below. And hopefully things turn around with the Airbnb, and also hopefully the house appreciates and things work out. But a year in and being negative $12,000, I can feel that. You know, I'll just say this much all the way around. The economy is a little tough. As far as that is a form of real estate right there. Buying a house, trying to do short-term rental. I saw in the comment section somebody was talking about long-term rentals are better. That can be something to think about. And I saw the gentleman responded to that comment. You just got to run your numbers. Talk to a financial advisor. Long-term rentals, here's the thing. You got somebody there for at least a year, you know, 6 months to a year. These weekly weekends, if you're not able to get constant clients, it can hurt you. But the thing about long-term rentals is it might take you a month or two to secure a tenant, but once you got a tenant there, they're going to be there for about a year. And you just need to make sure you charge them enough to where you can pay your mortgage. You may not make a ton of money out of it, but your mortgage is paid off, property taxes and all the other expenses. Then you don't have to pay cleaners. You know, so here's some of the upside to long-term rentals. Once you rent it out, they may call you for renovations here and there if things go bad. But for a short-term rental, you got to clean every time somebody moves in and move out. That's an added expense, you know, and the more people go in and out, the more possibilities there are of damages and things of that nature. So long-term rental, the other side of that is you may not yield a lot. You may just make $100, $200 more after it's all said and done, but somebody's paying your mortgage, you're building equity, and you building your real estate portfolio. If you're looking to purchase a home or sell a home in the District of Columbia or Maryland, my information would be in the description down below. Please feel free to reach out. You can also just book a consultation for free on my website, by the way. I don't know why I don't mention that all the time, but yeah, the calendar is down in the description down below. You can just book a consultation on my website. And also, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. That's how you help the channel grow. All right, let's get right into it, okay?
Now that I'm house poor, I've got to make my mortgage payment, so let's do that together. The amount of the mortgage on this house is $362,549.54. We bought this house in April 2025, and our mortgage balance then was $364,500. So we've made a little progress. But like I said,
I was shocked when I bought my house. She bought the house sometime last year, made the video, I believe, this year, and has only gone down by $2,000. You know, the price of the home, I would say, is a little below or right around the national average. If it's in Maryland, it's definitely lower than the Maryland state average. If it's in DC, it's way lower, but I don't think she's in either one of these places, but it's right around the national average. But that's the sad thing about buying a house, right? Your first few years are literally just paying off interest, and almost for a whole year of paying mortgage every month, her principal only went down by about $2,000. Let that sink in.
We are definitely in the house poor category, and our monthly payment is $2,919.17. Whew, that's a lot. Of that,
that is about $3,000. So you're paying about $3,000 a month for God knows how many months, almost an entire year, and your principal went down by only $2,000. It's amazing. The bank want theirs immediately. So when you buy a house, just look through your amortization schedule. It'll tell you how it breaks down. Your lender should provide this to you. When you see that, man, a chunk of it goes towards the interest. It's like almost, it's like a slope, and as it's like an X. You're paying off your principal at a very low end, and as you go, you start paying off the principal higher. The interest on the other side, you start very high, and as you go to the 30-year mark, you get really low on what you're paying on interest. So the bank need theirs immediately. Anyway, let's keep watching.
Almost $3,000. Only $347.97 goes toward principal. Then for interest, we are paying $1,926.04. And
wow, only about 300 and something odd dollars goes towards principal. And not only the monthly payment, right? It's also when you buy a house, when you close, a chunk of that, only a slight percentage, actually goes towards your down payment. A bunch of it goes towards fees, transfer taxes, and all these other costs. So just keep that in mind.
And our escrow is $645.16. So that's a lot that's going toward interest when we make this payment this month. But because I don't want to be paying this huge amount for 30 years, I am paying a little bit extra toward.
So you see how much the bank is taking? They're taking a whole...
That's a lot that's going toward.
The bank is paying a whole lot more. It's taking a whole lot more of that, right? Escrow, that sounds like an FHA buyer. When you, or either an FHA, or I'll say a low down payment conventional. Conventional loans normally require 20%, but now, just because of the cost of living, not too many people can save 20% of a home. So if you're looking at a $400,000 home, 20% I believe is like $80,000. How many people can really save $80,000 in down payment? What lenders now do is they do a conventional 3. With a conventional 3%, you need the mortgage insurance, right? Because that is still a conventional loan. It's not backed as like the FHA loan, but that mortgage insurance protects the lender. For an FHA loan, you got to pay that insurance premium as well, right? And that's where the escrow go in. They take that insurance, they take the taxes, and they keep it there from your monthly payment, and they disperse it to the county government or the state government, whoever collects your property tax, because they don't want you falling back on that, and then they have to deal with the government. The lender wants to protect themselves. But just think about that. Only a little bit is going towards a principal. The majority of it is going towards interest and then escrow. So sometimes if you can build your equity, you can refinance. And when you refinance, you put a little bit more down, you can stop paying escrow. So that money that's going towards escrow can actually go towards your actual mortgage. And another trick that you can do is try to pay a little bit more every month and be specific. I need this to go towards my principal. So you want to bring down the principal as fast as possible, then your interest rate will be lower. Save a ton of money in the long term. Let's watch.
Reducing the mortgage balance every single month. So I rounded up my mortgage payment to $3,000, which means I put an extra $80.83 directly toward principal, and I paid a full payment of $3,000 toward the mortgage. This means our new balance after that $347 and that
That is exactly what I just talked about, and that is very smart. Honestly, I do it myself. It's not a ton of money extra that I put down, but I try to pay a little extra every month, and I make sure I highlight on the website that this is going towards my principal. And what that does, it just brings down your mortgage balance, as she mentioned, and then that also reduces your interest over time. It may not seem like a lot right now, but once your mortgage balance comes down, you'll save a ton of money. Well, I'm not going to drag this on any longer, but I'll leave a link to this video in the description down below. I really like the way she broke down all the dollar amount. That is very bold for her to put all her business out there like that, but it really helps home buyers just to see and just to grasp the concept of buying a home and what you're walking into. Really great for her to be paying towards your principal. The more you can pay towards your principal, that's going to save you a ton of money over time. So house poor, she has a strategy, so that's a good thing, and I think over time it's definitely. Let's jump right in.
Where do you live and how much do you pay for your housing? Because this is my Friday treat. And I make good money, and I can only afford one coffee a week. Fridays are my special days to get a coffee. Because I'm so house broke, I paid $3,000 for my 1,700 square foot home, which isn't that big of a house, I think. Like, I feel like if I move states, and I could still make.
I think she can get another cup of coffee if she wanted to, but that's just neither here nor there. What I'll say is $3,000 for a 1,700 square foot home. It may seem like a lot, but if you think about DC and Maryland in this market, don't know where she's recording this from, but in this market, you're not going to get a ton. That is about right. $3,000 can get you something decent in Maryland, but in Washington, D.C., my goodness, it's all small. It's a mini New York as far as space, just the house size. A lot of condos cost way more than single family homes in Maryland. But if you want space and want a low mortgage, you're gonna be in a not so desired neighborhood. You always get what you pay for. But one thing I saw, I was shocked. I saw this lady posted, and her mortgage was about $1,700, and she had a massive house in Texas. I couldn't believe it compared to what we're paying up here. But then you got to think about income. And if you make $80,000 in Maryland and $80,000 in Texas, can afford you different things. But $80,000 in Maryland, you might be making maybe 70 or so in certain parts of Texas, or 60, depending on, obviously, the bigger cities like Houston, Dallas may be more expensive, but Texas is massive. When you go further out, you can get a big chunk of house for a little bit of money. I remember the first time I noticed that was way back in 2006. I went to Atlanta, and a friend of mine had a 2-bedroom house right by the Atlanta Braves stadium. It's not like a super affluent area, but hey, it was by the Atlanta Braves stadium. He had a 2-bedroom house, and he was paying $200 less than I was paying for a 2-bedroom apartment right here in Maryland. Think about that. Let's get right back into it.
The same amount of money. I could get more bang for my buck. Okay, the thing that I do, like working in the legal field, that doesn't really change state to state. It's still expensive to have a lawyer, so I'm still gonna get paid good. I make money on social media. That's not changing if I move to a different state. So what am I doing wrong that I can only afford one coffee a day? I want to have coffee every day. But if I move states, I won't have coffee. Moral of the story.
She just kind of addressed some of the things I talked about, living in different areas. And apparently she's in the legal field. Is she an actual lawyer? Is she a paralegal? But she said getting a lawyer in the legal field and gets money from social media. So it's almost like the nomadic lifestyle, right? People can live wherever. You saw a lot of people living like superstars in Mexico, and then the local population over there got mad because they felt like a lot of Americans were working remotely and making the living standards for them too much, because they get paid in American dollars and they pay their mortgages in pesos or their rent in pesos, and they just have this very affluent lifestyle that makes things harder on the locals. But you don't have to go to Mexico. You can do that here in America. As I mentioned, certain areas, let's say you're in LA, for instance, what you can afford over there, you just take that money and you move it to South Carolina or North Carolina or Delaware, wherever. You can afford a whole lot more. So that is a question I guess she's grappling with herself. And leave a link to this video in the description down below. Don't think we're going to get too much into that. I guess her thing, it's about lifestyle choices and affordability. Where can she go with her semi-remote work and legal work to get a better bang for her buck? Being house poor. Right? Well, good luck to her on that. And
I bought a house when I was 26 and fell immediately into poverty. Okay, when I lived with my parents, I was living my best luxury lifestyle. I went to South Korea, bought a 2,000 plane ticket, didn't even blink twice. I went shopping, luxury goods, all that. Was traveling, was just, oh, I was living it up. I felt rich. I had
a lot of personality here. Great storyteller, a lot of personality. To each his own, you know, move out of the parents' house and spend $2,000 on a plane ticket to South Korea. Everybody has different priorities. To some, that may not be what they think about as far as when you start making money, but to some, that's what they choose to do. Love the energy though.
No bills. And I had a full-time 9-to-5 job. I was working as a nurse. Okay, I was killing it. I bought my own house. That first mortgage payment came in and I was like, oh, this is a situation. But at first you think you can handle it, right? Like, you know, what's a couple thou? What's a couple thou? I got it. But then the pipes in my 80-year-old home.
So one thing I caught there, she said she felt rich. Being able to spend money can make you feel rich sometimes, but there's a difference between feeling like you're rich and actually being rich, right? And I think the cushion of that 6-month emergency fund that people should try to build is something, because she just talked about when she got her first mortgage, it was a shocker and she thought she can handle it. But let's dive in and see how this played out.
Broke immediately as soon as I bought the house. Wiped out my savings. Then another pipe in a different area of the house broke. Okay, I'm struggling. Okay, I need help. Then my neighbor's pipe, it was a twin house, her pipe broke.
80-year-old home. So here's the thing. Pipes going bad, wiping out savings. This is something. One thing you can do when you purchase a home is try to get a home warranty. She said immediately, so I'm assuming maybe the first year. You can get these home warranties for like less than $1,000, sometimes $1,000 or more, depending on the house, a year. And that's gonna cover the plumbing, electrical, HVAC for the most part. If you want additional, some of them cover appliances, they'll charge you for extra. That's just something to think about if you're jumping into buying an older home or just buying a home in general. It's always recommended to get home warranties. I, as an agent, sometimes buy it on behalf of my client. If I'm walking away with $12,000 in commission, $10,000, $7,000, however much, $20,000, I can spare $700-800 for like home warranty, just to give me a little peace of mind, also make the client appreciate the transaction. Sometimes I do it for the seller or the buyer. It really doesn't matter. If I get a buyer and I just want them to have at least peace of mind for a year, I'll pay for the home warranty. I've also done it for listings in particular, because we're selling some house just to get the buyer a little peace of mind as well. Like, hey, this house is going to be covered for a year. So something to think about there. But that's one thing I mentioned. They used to say have about $5,000 left over when you purchase a home. But some of these expenses in houses, that was back in the day. Some of these expenses now, $5,000 ain't even gonna shake it. If you think about an HVAC unit going bad, it can be up to 15 plus, roofs, plumbing, depending on where. If they got to tear down walls to get to that, can run you a pretty penny very quickly.
And she didn't believe that her pipe broke, but her pipe broke on my side of the house. So all of that water that was coming down was spraying into my home. And then my water heater broke. When I tell y'all, I went from living in the lap of luxury to destitute immediately. Now, don't get me to fooling y'all, because it was worth it in the long run, because that house is now worth like 2 times what it was worth then. So I'm actually doing pretty good. But at the time, when I tell you I was struggling, I had to go to my parents every other day for dinner because your girl could not feed herself. I bought a house when I was 20.
Yeah, that's unfortunate right there when you think about the neighbor's pipe going bad and having to deal with that. So, for instance, you go get a plumber, they check it, then they find out it's not yours. I wonder what the liability there is. Can she get compensated? Something to think about. But this is why I always preach buy a house. And people always say, is it a good time to buy? Think about what she just said. The house is worth twice in the long term. Long-term game is the real estate game. You don't think about, it's unfortunate we live in this instant generation. People want it and they want it now. It's the microwave generation. Everything should be done immediately. But if you can be a little patient and build equity, and if, let's say, you fall in an area where there's development and the house value goes up, think about that, right? I know a gentleman who was so happy and eager to see me. He bought a house. He was trying to renovate it like an older home, as she talked about, and then pull the equity out and just get into the real estate business that way. Kind of ran short of cash. Talked to some grant programs. He was so eager last week when he saw me. He got $65,000 to finish up the renovation. So there are things, programs that you can, and that's a grant. It's not a loan. $65,000 to get an older home completely remodeled. He was already there, just needed a little bit more. The city just needed to see how much work he's done and how much is left to go. So there are different programs you can get into to just kind of get your home where it needs to be. And if it's an area that's developing, that's why the city was trying to put some money into that home. They're trying to boom that area. Gentrify, as some may see it, develop as others may see it. But he got fortunate. He bought a house there for very cheap, did a lot of work, took all the work to the county and the city, like, hey, I've done this much, can you help me finish it up? And they did. So I'll leave a link down to this video in the description below.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
Another topic we're going to cover, because we talked about getting your home show ready and doing repairs. Not all repairs are necessary. I like to live by the golden rule: you do unto others as you want done unto you. Sometimes I even get home warranties on behalf of my sellers for at least 1 year. It just covers me at least for a year as a realtor. You know, even though buyers have like 3 years to go file complaints, but I just try to make sure the product is good. That's all. So not all sellers can afford that. Sometimes you're in a hard financial situation. You ain't got money to repair a house, but you got to get it up off of you. And it's like, I got to sell this house. I would love to repair it, but I don't have the money, right? But in this market now where people are looking for move-in ready houses, you know, I'm not telling you go into some major massive repair and then you can't recoup the money. You spend way more into repairs than when you think about repair costs, and what your house is going to sell for is still not worth it. So I would say, you know, thinking about selling your home, many homeowners assume they need to repair every flaw before listing. That's not necessarily true, but that's often a costly mistake. You know, in today's market, some repairs simply don't deliver enough value to justify the expense. Before you spend thousands of dollars on upgrades, here are 10 things you should think twice about before putting your home on the market. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. That is how you help the channel grow. And also, if you're looking to buy, sell your house in Maryland or DC, my contact information is in the description below. Thank you. Number one, we'll say minor infractions. So small nail holes, minor scratches on the walls, tiny dents on the trim, you know, work usually don't deter serious buyers, you know. While a fresh coat of paint can help, you know, just these little things buyers they don't really care too much, you know. Just every, you know, imperfection is not really worth the time and money unless you're dealing with some kind of obsessive buyer that's just nitpicking every single thing. But just some little things you can get away with. But I can tell you though, a fresh coat of paint goes a long way. Outdated functional appliances, yes, that doesn't necessarily need to be replaced. You know, a brand new kitchen with brand new appliances looks better. But if your appliances are older but still working properly, replacing them may not significantly increase your home's value. Most buyers understand that appliances can be updated later according to their personal preferences. I bought a home, was it 4 or 5 years ago? I only had to change the water heater so far. The stove wasn't brand new, the refrigerator wasn't brand new, but they're still functional. So what if that seller would have added those costs when these things have, oh, I changed the washer and dryer. Was it last Thanksgiving when they had the Black Friday sale? Because the washer, it was that one unit, the washer and dryer connected. Either one of them wasn't working, but because it was one single unit, you got to swap out both. So in 4 years of being here, washer and dryer, water heater, but I still got the stove and the other refrigerator and other appliances. So just think about it. And it took actually 3 years of living here for the washer or dryer to go out. So not all appliances need to be replaced. Slightly worn carpeting, that can it can enhance the value of the home. But if your carpet is like really tore up, a lot of stains, if it's like these plain colors that you can get a steam cleaner in there and get it clean, that can be an option. But be mindful of like these colored carpets, like a burgundy, a blue, green. If you try to deep clean those, you can fade the colors and people can actually see the difference in colors. which is like a disservice to the house. So I would say sometimes you may need to replace the carpet, but if it's slightly worn carpeting, unless the carpet is heavily stained, torn, or producing odors, replacing all the flooring can be expensive. Professional cleaning is often enough to improve the appearance. Number 4, we're going to say minor driveway and wall cracks. Hairline cracks through concrete are common and generally don't concern buyers. Most structural issues should be addressed, but cosmetic cracks can rarely justify costly repairs. So if you see the house, like one time we went to see this very, very nice house in Clinton, Maryland, but you can almost see like it's sinking, you know, like the foundation is not working. That got to get addressed. But just a little crack, I got a couple of cracks in my driveway. When I cut the grass, I got to go with the weed whacker and get that little grass that's growing in between the concrete. Maybe I should just seal it off. Anyway, I'll just say that's not something that would drive away buyers. Old kitchen cabinets. So a complete kitchen remodel is one of the most expensive projects a homeowner can undertake. Kitchens can go anywhere from 10 grand, maybe sometimes cheaper, all the way to 50,000 or more, depending on the size of the home. If your cabinets are functional, consider simple improvements such as cleaning, hardware replacements, or repainting instead of a full renovation. Sometimes you got a cabinet refacing. Those are also kind of expensive. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to swap out your entire kitchen. Dated bathrooms. Many sellers spend thousands updating bathrooms only to recover a portion of the investment. If everything works properly, focus on cleanliness, fresh caulk, and minor cosmetic improvements rather than a full remodel. Another thing, number 7, will say partially finished basements. Don't feel pressure to finish an unfinished basement before selling. Buyers often prefer a lower price and opportunity to customize the space themselves. You know, so think about that. Number 8 will say windows. Older windows still function. Newer windows can help. Pricing, especially due to energy consumption, you know, but replacing every window in your home can cost tens of thousands of dollars. Unless windows are damaged, leaking, or failing to operate properly, the return on investment is often disappointing. But windows definitely can upgrade your house if they are new. But let's say if they are old and you got a lot of air draft coming through it in the wintertime, new windows are a plus. But if you got functional windows that are sealed properly, you don't necessarily have to swap them out. Landscaping perfection. Curb appeal matters, but you don't need a magazine-worthy yard. Basic maintenance such as mowing, trimming shrubs, mulching, flower beds, and removing weeds is usually enough. Number 10, you'll say minor electrical or plumbing updates. If your systems are safe and functioning correctly, there's often little benefits to replacing fixtures simply because they're older. Focus on addressing safety concerns rather than upgrading everything. What should you fix before selling? While many upgrades aren't necessary, some issues should always be addressed, such as roof leaks, water damage, mold problems, structural concerns, safety hazards, broken HVAC system, major plumbing leaks, electrical hazards. Final thoughts. The goal isn't to create a perfect house. It's to present a well-maintained home that appeals to buyers. Before investing in repairs, consult a local real estate professional such as myself who understands your market. In many cases, spending less before listing can actually result in a higher profit net at closing. But one thing I'll say, the best repair is often the one you don't make. But I'll say this much, as a homeowner, target spring cleaning. Always, I try to do that. I got an older house. I try to do one decent sized project in my house every year since I bought it. Either I change the fence, I change the flooring, you know, bathroom, whatever it is. Every year I try to do something. Some years I may not be able to do some major project, but I may just go around and paint something, you know. Just retouch it. Keep your house fresh. Because or deep clean in the spring, you know, baseboards, everything, or before the holidays if you're getting family over.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
One thing I found out for me, I just did my business plan yesterday or earlier today. You know, I had actually structured it, but I actually wrote down numbers now, right? And I underestimated deliberately. I underestimated income, overestimated expenses, and it's not estimate, but the requirement of tasks I need to do, I allocated more time to the big tasks, right? But I underestimated, some people may say overestimate, so if you fall short, you're in a good place. I think I went that route a few years ago, and I don't see that to be beneficial. I would rather underestimate and then come up way higher by doing more, you know. So people go into the real estate industry and they overestimate, oh, I'm gonna make $1 million this year. And they fail to they fail to account for their expenses, their monthly fees, their office dues, you know, the advertising, you know, gas and all these different fees they got to pay. They don't account for those, but yet they account for all types of income. And then the light bulbs hit them, you know, the light hits them, the light bulb goes off, they don't get the sales they were projecting, but yet they're spending all this money. Now they got to get a job to pay their bills, right? Because nobody wants to be in an area where they're just spending and not making money. So I think people overestimate their income, they underestimate expenses, and then they find themselves out of the real estate industry. Another reason why some agents fail is just poor financial management and cash flow planning. I think who's going viral? Was it Odell Beckham Jr. is going viral about his $100 million lifestyle and how that's not enough to maintain a lifestyle. And we see a lot of retired athletes failing. The same is true in the real estate industry because the checks come few, you know, I wouldn't say few and far between, but sometimes if you get in the flow of things, you can have a commission check every month, multiple commission checks every month. I've seen both, but then I've also seen multiple months go by when I don't get a transaction, right? So what some agents do is they get a commission check and they go spending it as though that is their average. So let's say you make a $20,000 commission check on this transaction, but every other transaction you've done is only giving you $7,000. Don't go live as though $20,000 is your average, you know, salary. You want to live as though you are in the $7,000 average, you know. And then you got to account for months when you don't get a deal. So that even brings your average a little lower. So I think just inadequate financial management and planning, you know, let's say you average one deal every 2 months, but you get your commission check and you blow it all in 1 month. Now you still got these monthly dues your broker requires and you don't have the money to pay. Now you got to get out of the business, right? So just failure to plan accurately and not accounting for the cash flow. Another reason why agents fail is failure to build relationships. and a referral-based business. So I can say the end of this year, really, it's the referrals that sustained me, right? When I first got into it, I did a lot of paid leads. I actually think that is a business model that works. I've even thought about probably doing that again. It did work. I got almost 10 or 12 transactions 1 year from buying leads. Just from one lead source, actually. So that is a business model. You can sustain things, but you're just going to spend a lot. So your take home is a lot less when you think about it. But, you know, this year, actually, just to give a little story, early in the year, things were just like slow, right? Things were going, but you can just tell you're spending a lot on trying to buy leads, but none of them are translating. And then you just know, okay, this is not me. You're hearing it and you're seeing so many other signs that the market is changing. So you just say, you know what? Let me stop wasting this money on ads. And then you're still able to close deals and you see, oh, these are referrals from people I dealt with before. And there are some agents who have 100% referral-based business. That is a business model. So when you build relationships to where some people build business-to-business relationships with tax accountants. So these accountants now refer them to their clients. When the client say, oh, I want to buy a house, the tax accountant may say, oh, I have an agent that I can recommend, you know. I would say another one is like lawyers, divorce lawyers, you know, when people are going through divorces and they got to sell a house, that's another lead source where certain agents got that lawyer to always recommend them first, right? Another area that causes agents to fail is not investing in training, coaching, or skill development. You know, coaching can be very, very expensive. And sometimes you got to be wary of some of these coaches, right? They say those that can't do it, coach it, you know? Because when you look at the greatest players, they're not always the greatest coaches. And there's a reason why most of the greatest coaches, they were subpar in their playing career, right? And some people say it's because as a player, when you're very great, your expectation or patience is your expectation is high and your patience is at a minimum, right? So these are things to keep in mind. Some of these coaches, you know, they talk a good game, but have they done it? You don't know. So I get the apprehension as to, I don't know about this coach right here. I don't know about paying for this skill right here. I don't know about paying for that. Anyway, I will say this much. Not working on your skill or being training yourself, however you want to go about it.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
All right, welcome everybody. And today we're going to react to a few videos here. But before we get started, if you haven't liked the channel yet, make sure you like, share, comment. That's how you help the channel grow. I really, really appreciate it. Today's video, we are reacting to just the house poor thing. You hear a lot of people now talking about buying homes they cannot afford or being house poor. So without further ado, we're going to jump into that. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link down below to the original video just to give credit to the content creator here. I don't even know if they're content creators or they're just regular human beings just sharing their story. Either way, I think it would help some of my clients out there. So if you're looking to buy or sell a house in the area, feel free to reach out to me. My information will be in the description down below. But without further ado, let's hear what these people are talking about.
And it made me broke. Everyone is constantly talking about how you need to buy a house, you need to buy a house. I don't think that's true for everybody, and let me be a cautionary tale for you. And if you don't know me, my name's Kelsey. I bought a house and it made me broke.
So here's the thing, like what she said there, right? Everybody's saying you need to buy a house. Don't live your life trying to appease other people. Don't live your life based on what everybody is doing. Don't live your life based on what everybody says. You know, this is your life. You live it according to you. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Nobody knows your finances, your plans, your budget for them to just force this upon you. Buying a house shouldn't come based on what people think or your emotional desires. It should come based on your financial position. You know, this is something you need to talk with a financial advisor, talk with a lender, a good real estate agent, see where you are, and then make a move that's an educated move. Take the emotion out of it.
And I am working on a ton of side hustles in order to increase my emergency fund so I no longer feel broke. When I bought my house, I had a fully funded emergency fund. I was really financially prepared for this purchase. I had been saving up.
So emergency fund, some people say it's 3 to 6 months of money that you can live off of if you were to lose your job today. Let's say you lose your job today, you need about 6 months of paying bills. That's what that emergency fund is. So I like that, but sadly in America today, not everybody is going to have that emergency fund. You know, but that's the right way to think about it. Have your emergency fund even after you purchase a home. But as you heard, she purchased the home and then depleted her emergency fund. Some people don't care about an emergency fund. I really think it's important. Nobody knows tomorrow. You don't know, anything can happen. So it's always good to have that cushion there. I don't know how true these stats are, but you hear it quoted all the time. Most Americans cannot handle a $500 emergency. And when you think about an emergency fund, you're talking about 6 months of rent, food, clothing, everything, transportation. So it's a really good thing to have, right?
For this purchase for 5 years. So this was not an impulse decision by any means. I ended up getting approved for a house like almost twice as much as the current house I'm sitting in that I purchased. So
that is very good right there. And that's what I was stressing to most buyers. So she was approved for, let's say, an $800,000 house. She bought one for $400,000. But still, you see, even though she bought a house less, half of what she qualified for, she still got tight financially, just because of all the extra things that come with buying a house. And the economy, you can't predict those things, right? The inflation. So just imagine if she would have maxed out on all what she qualified for. She wouldn't be saying I'm broke. She'd probably be saying, oh, I'm going into foreclosure. So very smart of her to actually plan. She said she planned it out for 5 years. That is a good way to strategize. And that's why she's saying I'm broke, but she still can afford the house. You know, it's just the emergency fund got depleted. So when all things are considered, she's still in a better situation than a lot of people.
So I didn't make an irresponsible decision necessarily. I just ended up hitting a string of really bad luck when I purchased my house. And I think people...
And that's what I was trying to tell you guys in another video and earlier, is you cannot tell the future. So when you purchase a house, just give yourself some cushion. Sad to say, some people say it's true, some people say it's not. They say things happen in threes. I'm not superstitious, so I don't believe in those things. But in my life, I have experienced fortune. Just it's like, wow, I can't miss. Everything I touch turns to gold. Then you get into a stretch where things, you just feel like the world is against you. And we are all humans. We all experience these ups and downs. And that's what she's talking about. Right after she purchased the house, a lot of things went left. And she found herself in the hole. So the key here is plan out your life, plan it out properly, save up, even for the worst. They say hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. All right?
Do not think about that when they're going into a large purchase like buying a home. So I buy the house, but then I was hit with around $53,000 of random expenses in my life all at once within a span of 6 to 8 months. There's a lot that happened all at once. And when you buy that house, you think you're done with the large expenses. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. And on top of it, my fixed costs exploded overnight, which I expected. I had calculated for that when going into this home purchase. So that wasn't a surprise, but on top of all of the other life emergencies that were going on and financial drain that was happening, it was just way too much and I could not handle it all at once. Budgeting was...
All right, well, we're gonna stop it right there. Let's read some comments here. It says, I'm house poor, but I love my house. I'm going to die there. This is my biggest fear. The houses in my budget are crap, and my budget isn't small, so I quit and I said not for me. Trust me, I deal with buyers all the time. I got qualified buyers with pre-approval letters. We just can't get them a house because the houses in that budget they don't like. They want a house, but in this area right here, average homes are $400,000. That's average, right? And people, you know, if you qualify for 300 grand, you may not be happy with what you qualify for. Maybe a condo, maybe a small townhouse, and it just affects people. So yeah, it says, and everything is so expensive, all repairs $3K plus. I regret buying my house. I am in escrow at the moment and have had to push back closing date twice already. This time has made me really think if I can afford it or if I'm ready for it. I don't know what to do. Well, here's the thing. The last closing I had, thank God I was on the listing side, but we had to push closing date because of the lender and escrow and all these other things. Think about that when you're buying a house, guys. The economy is not where it once was. Interest rates are not where they were. And also inflation, gas prices, everything just seems so expensive. So just be very careful and mindful of your finances before buying a house.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
All right, welcome everybody. And today we're going to react to a few videos here. But before we get started, if you haven't liked the channel yet, make sure you like, share, comment. That's how you help the channel grow. I really will appreciate it. Today's video, we are reacting to just the being house poor thing. You hear a lot of people now talking about buying homes they cannot afford or being house poor. So without further ado, we're going to jump into that. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link down below to the original video just to give credit to the content creator here. I don't even know if they're content creators or they're just regular human beings just sharing their story. Either way, I think it would help some of my clients out there. So if you're looking to buy or sell a house in the area, feel free to reach out to me. My information will be in the description down below. But without further ado, let's hear what these people are talking about.
Bought a house that we could not afford. I don't mean like tight budget afford. I mean we had no idea what it actually cost every month. $700,000 in Los Angeles County.
So that is very key what she just said there. $750,000 in Los Angeles County. I can totally relate to that as far as the cost of homes here in Maryland. Certain areas can match that easily, right? Anywhere, not anywhere, but let me be clear. Let's say Northern Virginia, you got some homes that can definitely match that, and you're not even going to be in some kind of super mansion. You go to Bethesda, some parts of Annapolis, right? 750 can get you something really nice in a not so popular neighborhood, but in the top neighborhoods here, I can totally see that. And what she said here is she didn't know the total cost, and that's sometimes that falls on the lender. As a realtor, when you deal with a good realtor, they make sure the lender breaks down your actual cost to you. You know, because you got the loan, but you know your mortgage, but your actual cost, your realtor, that's the job of the lender, really, to give you the cost of the house and also the escrow and all these things. But a good real estate agent would know the extra cost and additional cost, and they will help point them out to you. So for instance, another thing that can normally happen is taxes go up. You know, I bought my house and my mortgage was at a certain rate. Houses have appreciated. Guess what? My mortgage went up just based on taxes, even though I got a fixed mortgage, you know. So not knowing the actual cost, especially where she's talking about the taxes are going to be crazy high, and then just maintenance is going to be high as well. So these are all things you want to get into. Make sure you really know the actual cost, you know, when you get your, and it's two people. You may hang your head together and say, oh, we are very young, we buy a house now, we're going to be ready. This is true. But cost of living is just so expensive, and nobody could afford told that we'll be in this constant inflation. There'll be a war in Iraq, and the economy, the gas prices will go high. Here they're at 5. Sometimes you hear in California, prices for gas is going all the way up to $6 a gallon. So when you think about all those extra costs, these all play in a factor in purchasing a house. So what I advise buyers all the time is make sure your lender gives you a breakdown of escrow, taxes, your HOA fees. Then you factor in a certain percentage as far as in utilities. Is a home energy efficient? If not, then just look up how much it may cost you to run this house as far as energy and your monthly energy bill, right? And then how do you get water? Is it public? If it's public, then you got to factor that in, your monthly water bill. And then, because some people, half of America uses well water, just so you know. Then also, just other maintenances. If you got, you know, we talked about lawn care, right? No, but just lawn care. If you got a big yard, are you a professional? Are you always busy? Are you going to be able to cut your own grass and take care of your own lawn? These are all just things people don't factor in. You know, when you're in an apartment, you drive in, the grass is cut. Some utilities are paid, but when you own your home, you do all of that. So just think about that before buying a house, all right?
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now Your future self will thank you.
All right, welcome everybody. And today we're going to react to a few videos here. But before we get started, if you haven't liked the channel yet, make sure you like, share, comment. That's how you help the channel grow. I really appreciate it. Today's video, we are reacting to just the being house poor thing. You hear a lot of people now talking about buying homes they cannot afford or being house poor. So without further ado, we're going to jump into that. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link down below to the original video just to give credit to the content creator here. I don't even know if they're content creators or they're just regular human beings just sharing their story. Either way, I think it would help some of my clients out there. So if you're looking to buy or sell a house in the area, feel free to reach out to me. My information will be in the description down below. But without further ado, let's hear what these people are talking about.
I want to set the record straight for the situation that I am living in. So I bought a house that I couldn't afford about 3 years ago. And let me give you a little bit more details than that, like the full story. So I put my house on the market in May of 2022. And in order to put my house on the market, we had to get out of the house because I have 3 children. There are 5 of us that are living in a house, and it was just impossible to keep clean and to be able to show the house while we were living there. So we went on a remote camping trip, something cheap, got out of the house, and we were away from any sort of cell signal.
This kind of veers off from the regular topic, but it's good. It pertains to what I talk about all the time as far as getting your house sold. Very smart move right there, and move in, remote camping trip. But when you do that, you got to make sure you price your home in the right way, because let's say you go on a remote camping trip and the house doesn't sell, then you're stuck, you know. So all that is nice. Very good decision. Because I've gone to showings where the buyer just wants to jump right out of the house because the teenager is in the bedroom, the mom is in the kitchen, has this distinct odor of whatever they're cooking, dad is watching a game in the living room, and you brought a whole family to tour the property. Doesn't feel like a showroom. It almost feels like you're encroaching on somebody's family time. So the buyer just nudges me like, let's get out of here. You know, so her leaving the house, making it show ready is a very good decision for sellers, you know. And then you heard about 5 people, the house is so small and difficult to keep clean, because let's say you she got kids, you get a call, oh, we are showing the house, now you got to clean up after your kid. Maybe 1 hour is not enough time for you to always clean and pack up. To leave the house. It's just inconvenient constantly leaving the house for people to come look at it. So that was a good decision to at least get the house clean, empty, and then put it on the market.
While we were gone, we sold the house, yay! But also, the interest rates doubled, essentially. We had like a 2.
And that's the problem most people are running into. And that's why I'm stuck in the house I am in. I bought my house and the interest rates were at 2.9, 2.75, something along those lines. Unbelievable interest rate. And I told this to an old real estate lady. She told me, Raymond, the day you sell this house, I'm going to come and whoop your butt myself, because the interest rates are just phenomenal. So that's why houses are not selling like that. A lot of people refinanced during the pandemic. So imagine you refinanced or you purchased like me during the pandemic at a 2 point something, and now you're looking at, if I sell my house now, my interest rates are going to skyrocket. And nobody knows the unexpected. Like, great, they moved. That's what I tell sellers all the time. You want to sell your house, make it a showroom. Price it accurately. You know, they just went on a little camping trip. I was worried for a second they wouldn't sell even after doing all of that. But great news, they were able to sell the house. But as soon as they sold it, they couldn't foresee the interest rates going up. And you can only imagine what they came out of. They probably won't be able to afford something like they really would like they were probably making these decisions thinking about the lower interest rates, but now the interest rates are doubled. That's going to limit the amount of house you can purchase. So sometimes when you hear all these, I'm house poor, I bought a house I can't afford, it's not always like negative. I only heard one story so far that was a bad decision. They kind of knew, I wouldn't say bad decision, but it's just a negative choice. And they knew it, but they wanted to become a homeowner. Everybody else is just the economy and the way things are shaping. Just I think let's read a few comments here, and I'll leave a link down in the description below for you to watch the rest of this video. Somebody's asking how old the kids are, talking about the school district, bad decision after another bad decision. Well, I'll leave a comment section below. I'll leave a link to this video in the comment section down below so you can check it out and you tell me what you think. I don't want to get into the weeds of the children and the decision she made, as a family decision. That's her choice, and I'll leave that alone. I just wanted to touch on home ownership and things that can affect homeowners, right? Because that's what I do in real estate. All right, well, thanks for watching. Hope this has been good.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
So, we're going to talk about first time selling your house with a realtor. Just the top tips, If you're selling with a realtor, what are the top tips that you may need to think about? First time selling your house with a realtor, top tips, if you're selling your house for the first time, partnering with the realtor can make the process much smoother. So I see it all the time. You see these for sale by owners, and I call them all the time to see if I can list their house for them, and you cannot even reach them, right? And you just think, what if I were a buyer and I cannot even get to you? Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. That is how you help the channel grow. And also, if you're looking to buy, sell your house in Maryland or DC, my contact information is in the description below. Thank you. Some of them for religious reasons may not be available on Saturdays. Excuse me, I've heard it on voicemails. Either they're taking their Sabbath, they're Jewish, can't be available on a Saturday. Some are Muslim, can't be available on a Friday, whatever it may be. And you just think if you had a real estate professional that can make your house accessible all the time, so you're limiting your access in essence, especially if you're a professional, you're at work at a certain time, can't show the house all the time. So that can be a plus. There are several things you need to know when you do it for sales. Yard sign, some HOAs don't allow that. The right preparation can make the difference between selling quickly for top dollar and sitting on the market for a while. So another thing is, there's a myth that, you do for sale by owner, you're going to get the most. On average, when you look at the stats, people who do for sale by owner get, about 40% of them sell it for less than those that actually do with the realtor. So sometimes the right agent can make the process smoother, but some people, if you've done it before, that is a cost you can save. So I'm not here to say don't go for sale by owner, but if you are going with an agent, just some things to keep in mind. Interview multiple realtors before choosing one. I recommend that, even though I can just say, hey, choose me. I think competition is fair, talking to the right agent and making sure you're getting ready to sell maybe the biggest sale transaction you're going to make in your lifetime. You need to get the right person to do the job. So interview multiple agents. I know the saying goes, oh, I have a friend, I have a family member that's a realtor. I would ask to see their numbers. How many homes have you sold? Because it's really not fair when you think it's almost like you're going to court and you're going up against a seasoned I wouldn't say trial lawyer, but like class action lawsuit lawyer and you're going to represent yourself. You know, sometimes when you think about custody battles, you know, whether it's the mom or the dad, they go there by themselves, and then the other party has this high-powered lawyer, and then you walk out the courtroom thinking you got screwed, but you don't even know how to communicate to the judge, you know? So it's sometimes something to think about. Just because your friend is a realtor doesn't mean they may be the best person to sell your house. I know the feeling. I'm a realtor, and if a friend of mine or a family member of mine puts their house on the market and don't hire me, it would make me feel a certain type of way, right? But I'll just say this much: interview multiple agents. Don't hire the first agent you meet, even though the stats say 70% of people hire the first agent they meet, right? I would say try to interview a few agents, at least 3. How many homes have you sold in my area? That's a good question. Also, just because somebody hasn't sold a house in your area doesn't mean they can't get the job done. You got to see sometimes, do they have a brokerage support? Because I have sold a bunch of houses in certain cities, but I had to sell my first house there. You know what I mean? So, but how many homes have you sold in my area is a good question. What's your marketing strategy? How do you generate buyer's interest? These are all questions. What is your average list to sell? So list to sell price ratio. The reason why that is important is because some agents just come and they take your listing at the price you tell them you want your house to sell for, knowing very well that's not the market is not going to pay for that. And then they end up dropping, you know, renegotiating the price. I'll be honest, I take listings sometimes that are overpriced, but I let the seller know my number. You know, I wouldn't say my number. I think the number the market is willing to pay. I give them a number. I say your house is going to sell at this. But since you're adamant, I work for you. We can put it on at this price, but let's renegotiate in 2 weeks. Sometimes you can automatically even sign that, like in 2 weeks, we're going to drop the price to this. Because I think that first 2-week window is very pivotal. The bad thing about price dropping is once you drop the price once, buyers are now like, let's see how low they're going to go. And they'll hold off. You may even have a potential buyer, but now they're going to wait to see how low you're going to go, right? Make sure it's priced accurately. See their list to sell ratio. How often will you communicate with me? Just standard SOP for me personally. I do a weekly recap. Standard, let's say nothing happens, no showings, nothing. I do a weekly recap. Or even if something happens but no offers, it's just best practice so the seller knows this is where we are. There are actually portals in my brokerage where the seller can be tied into. Not too many people like that, but some sellers actually prefer that. It's virtual. They can just tie into the platform, see how many showings they're getting, see how many, all the communication can go through. They can see when open houses are scheduled, everything, right? It's kind of seamless, you know, but I still try to send that email to let them know. Sometimes based on the relationship, calls. Here's one thing I recommend for agents. You just ask the seller, how would you like to be communicated with? Because I like emails doesn't mean everybody likes emails. Some people like text messages. Other people are old school, call me. Some people don't want to be called. So ask the seller. As a seller, communicate with your agent the best way you would like to be communicated to and how frequent you would like to hear from them. So for me as an agent, I say over communicate. It's better the seller tells me, look, I know you're working to sell my house. You ain't got to tell me everything. Than they're in the dark, especially if the house is not selling. You don't want 30 days to go by, 15 days, they're not hearing from you. They don't know the process. Should we renegotiate pricing? They're just in limbo, you know? So get an agent that's going to communicate with you. Price your home correctly from day one. Can't reiterate this more because for first 2 weeks, trust me, it's very pivotal. You know, you get fewer showings if it's overpriced, sits on the market longer. I've seen a strategy where some people come and they underprice your property and get people to bid on it. It has worked, but it has also failed tremendously, you know, because people sometimes don't bid to that price that you were expecting. but sometimes they overbid. But just because somebody shoots you this idea of let's underprice it and create a bidding war doesn't mean people are going to bid on it. So I've seen it work, I've seen it fail. Just try to price it correctly. Look at the neighborhood, see what houses in your market are going for, and you want to be right around that ballpark.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
Has been happening regularly. Basically, I had someone go to my door while I am out of town saying that they have a sublease to this apartment and this number, and that they were instructed for, if they couldn't get in touch with the super of the building, to call a locksmith and drill into the door and change the lock. So they did that. They brought a locksmith.
Yeah, there's a lot of scamming going on, unfortunately. And how does this pertain to real estate? We're talking about squatters, right? There was just one where the property was vacant, a very beautiful mansion in the Bethesda area, which is upclass. Somebody moved in there with a U-Haul. It's just the neighbors noticed these people are not supposed to be here, and then getting them out was a headache. Then come to find out. Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel. My name is Raymond Reffel, and we're gonna react to some of these videos. I'm a real estate agent in Maryland and DC. So if you're looking to move in the area or sell a property, I'll leave a link down in the description below. Also, you can just go to my website, which will be in the description below, and just book a free 15-minute consultation, okay? Let's get started.
Try to record. So I've tried to record this story time like 300 times, but I'm just going to tell the story and post it. If you don't know, I'm a realtor. I am located in the Twin Cities, and the other day I was showing a house and there were squatters living inside, and I wanted to kind of spread awareness on what those signs might look like, kind of what happened and how we dealt with the situation, because I want to keep other female realtors safe and other buyers in general.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I was talking about. They went to go do a showing and their squatters inside. Couple of things I would say: keep other female realtors safe. The male realtors need to be safe as well. I think it's just, you know, they're also people. They're going in there, so it's about keeping everybody safe, if you ask me. And also, not only the buyers going to look at the house, but also the seller. They also have to deal with that. If anything, that buyer can just move on to a next property, but that seller now has a squatter there. So I think the advice goes for everybody who has anything to do with the house. Male, female, real estate agent, buyer, seller. Everybody needs to be aware that when your house is on the market and it's vacant, you know, there are things you can do. One, as a seller, to prevent people from breaking in your house. Two, also as a buyer's agent, not to just walk in with your clients to an area. One thing I recommend for agents: be early, go in, take a look at the property. Best practice. And also, female, we also talked about having somebody go with you, accompany you, or at least let them know where you're going, what area you're going to, what house you're going to show, which is not the best, but at least if anything happens, they know your location. You know, it's not the best. The best is to have somebody go with you, but you may not always be able to have somebody accompany, especially if you're not sure about the area or the house. Have somebody accompany you. They don't have to go in the house. They can be in the driveway, but you know, criminals tend not to like witnesses around. So if you go in and they see somebody in the driveway sitting there, they might think twice. All right, but let's keep going.
Safe, and we were checking out a house, and as realtors we get access to lock boxes that have the keys to the home inside of them. So I get the key to the house, and it unlocks the deadbolt on the front door, but not the handle. The handle is already unlocked. I'm like, okay, great. You know, that's typical. Sometimes there's only one key, or it unlocks both, right? So I unlock the deadbolt and we go to open the door, and every single time I enter a listing or a home or a condo, anything, I always say hello, and I say realtor pretty loud. So in case there's anyone there that I don't know of, they know that I'm there.
These people had definitely heard that I was there. I didn't hear any movement after that, but the door didn't open all the way because there was one of those kind of old school chain link manual locks that you can only slide from the inside. So I couldn't get past the front door. So I kind of had a feeling then at that point, immediately my intuition was like, there are people inside. And there was no notice of tenants or anything like that. So I knew that whoever was in there was not supposed to be in there.
Yeah, that's a good point she mentioned when, you know, you announce your presence. I try to do that as well when I go in. And then, like I said, cut on all the lights. I'll go downstairs. It's just better showing. You know, you don't want to be cutting on lights sometimes as you show the house to the client. Sometimes you get held up with one client, you run into another one, the client beats you there. Some clients are very eager, even though you go there early, they're already there, they're walking the yard, whatever the case may be. But if I can, I try to go earlier, and you want to make yourself known. I've gone into some homes. One time I opened the door and the owner was there, but I announced myself, and it did say owner occupied, but I didn't know they were going to be in the house. And when I made myself known, turned out they were upstairs, which was good. They showed us around the house, gave us a history of the property, but it's always good to make yourself known when you enter a house.
So we walked to the side of the house, my buyer and we kind of check out the side door to see if maybe there are signs of breaking and entering, and kind of, or maybe the lock is unlocked over there and that's where we're supposed to go, right? Sometimes that could be the case. We walked to the side of the house, and the door to the side of the house is completely kicked in. The doorknob is missing, like the whole thing, right? The window is being like boarded up, covered, you know, from the inside, and there's food inside that we see through the window, and I'm like, we are not, this is where we stop. We walk to the front of the house, we call the police eventually show up. They were testing me, they were like kind of challenging me on whether they could go inside the house or not, because they were confused, like what I meant to the house pretty much. Eventually, they see that there are people in there that should not be in there. They eventually were able to get inside the house and kind of get them out of there. I don't really know. I was calling the listing agent because I could finally reach her and keeping her in the loop. But it was a pretty spooky situation. You know, I didn't know if these people inside had weapons.
Yeah, well, we're gonna wrap it up right there. God, well, thank God she's safe. You gotta be very careful, you know. Some offices advise female real estate agents to keep pepper sprays, mace. But once again, I don't want to be sexist. Criminals attack male and female. It doesn't matter, you know. So just be prepared. It's not, you know, being, just to be totally honest, in all my years doing real estate and showing properties, I've never ran into a situation where a squatter is in the house. I mentioned I've had a listing in a sketchy neighborhood for an investor that has a lot of properties, building, flipping, and they cut off the copper wires connecting the AC unit, and then they stole my sign out in the front yard. But that's the worst I've ever had. And I showed a property where somebody was trying to open the latch on the back door. I mean, the windows back there. But, you know, the windows are secure from...
I didn't know if these people inside had weapons.
The windows are secure from the inside, thankfully. But you hear nightmare stories. Sometimes you see it on the news. I saw one in Detroit where a real estate agent, unfortunately, lost her life at a showing, you know. So I'll always say, just safety. Your brokerage should have some kind of safety protocol as far as communicating with somebody in the office or a spouse. You have to let people know where you're going and when you're doing a showing. It's just the best practice, just in case anything happens. And also, if you can, as a lady, if you can, have somebody accompany you. If you're not sure, have somebody accompany you. Let them be visible, you know. That's another thing. Another way is to be on a video call, at least, until you have some kind of a confirmation that the coast is clear, then you can possibly get off the video call. But just have precautionary steps in place. Let's get started.
So I have a squatter in my Airbnb, but my cleaner is an absolute G, and we're working together, and we're going to get him out before the end of the day. Basically, my cleaner shows up, 10 o'clock, it's time to clean, and the people are not leaving. Now, to preface this, she's been my cleaner for years, and she's seen this before. He gives him 20, 30 minutes. Eventually...
What I don't know right there, is it the original tenants that rented the place or some other people that broke in? You know, this is a short-term rental, and we mentioned in the previous video, short-term rentals kind of have a little bit more cost because after everybody moves out, you got to have a cleaner that goes from building to building, cleaning it up, getting it ready for the new tenant. So I don't know right now if this tenant, this squatter, is somebody that rented it before and just wanted to extend their stay, or maybe a friend, a guest at a party in that location or whatever that knew was vacant, or just somebody random knowing this is an Airbnb and it's empty and let's go get in there. Let's see.
Without my direction, goes and knocks, which she wanted to do. And they came to the door and they're like, hey, we're staying. She looks very innocent, and she is, but, you know, she has some fiery side to her. And they're just like, hey, don't tell the host, like, she was on their team. We're going to stay and, like, never leave. She played along, texted me on the side, and was like, okay, like, let me just clean up the deck for you, all this, this, and this. I'll even clean the inside. They were weary on that. She started to clean the deck. She's like, hey, I'll come back in a couple hours, like, clean the inside.
So here's the thing, right? It's funny, we did a reaction to a HOA story where a lady wanted to go dissolve the HOA, but pretty much posted it on the internet. Let it be known to other neighbors that, okay, this HOA is a pain in the neck. I'm going to be a board member and dissolve the HOA. And obviously the HOA wrote her a letter saying, if those are your intentions, it's not in the best interest of the board or the community for you to be part of the board. So here's what I say. Once again, it's somebody just showing their hand. I'm totally against just freeloading, but why would they tell the cleaner that they intend on staying and don't tell the host? Just showing your hand. It makes no sense. Absolutely. Kudos to the cleaner, but sometimes you put yourself at risk when you go trying to confront these people. You know, I would always recommend law enforcement. You know, that's what I would recommend. Confronting people, even though you're right, sometimes can always go bad. You know, we've seen cases in the extreme. There's one right now going viral that's in the news. A mother came home and her teenage daughter had somebody in the 20s, young teenage daughter had somebody in the 20s there, and she shot the person. Now she's arrested. That's an extreme case, but it's in the news right now as we speak. And even though you may be right, or you think you may be right, you can't just necessarily take the law into your own hands. That's all I'm saying. So be very careful. That's why even with shoplifters, you know, there's this thing that people say, why don't you just rough them up or arrest them? Things can escalate. Things can escalate, you know. So I always err on the side of caution to hand it over to the law enforcement. That's why you pay your taxes, right? Let's go.
So she's heading back in an hour. Like I said, she wants to do this. She's going to get them to leave when they go out for dinner, ideally, because she said it didn't look like they had food inside, and then switch all the codes. They haven't been there long enough to, you know, determine residency. That's also not a thing in this state. And she's just going to move their bags to the end of the driveway, which is technically the public road here, and that is all allowed. And she knows she is a...
Once again, I recommend call law enforcement. That is very slick, very smart. For short-term rentals, it can be tricky, right? I see if you know who's in the building, you can maybe sit outside in the parking lot and just when they leave, you go and switch the codes. I get that. But once again, when you think you're right, and let's say they come back, things escalate, even though you're right, you taking the law into your own hands can really get things going. And one thing he said that they haven't stayed long enough to establish residency. So in some states, as we mentioned in the last video, once somebody moves in, it's kind of hard to get them out. But he said in that state, it's not a thing there. Some states don't put up with squatters. You call the police, they get them out of there. So if he's in that kind of state already, he shouldn't let the cleaner put herself or himself in that situation. I just don't like the idea of confronting the criminals or whatever on your own. Not because you can't, it's just what happens after that. Let's say, hey, you're with your family, somebody crosses the line, then there are things you, as a man, you got to put yourself on the line for. There are just things, let's say I'm going to a showing and I go down in the basement and something is there that shouldn't be there, or somebody's there and they want to attack me or my client. In the moment, yes, you got to be able to defend yourself. There are some cases where they, train agents on just being prepared, especially if you're a lady going down in these basements with somebody. At least text somebody in your office, let them know where you're going to do a showing in case anything happens, because you got bad characters out there. So I'll say if you get hit with the unexpected, yes, be prepared. But if you already know the situation, I totally advise against that. I would always say hand it over to law enforcement. I know sometimes, especially even in this state, Maryland, DC, they lean a little bit more towards tenant rights. Just is what it is, and it sometimes become harder as a landlord to get a squatter out. But I still err on the side of caution. As they always say in retail, that money is insured, your life isn't, so it's very unfortunate, but I don't recommend people putting themselves in the line of danger. All right.
Story time about someone breaking into my apartment in New York City. This is a PSA / I'm wondering if this has happened to anyone else. When I spoke to the police, they said that this is something that has been happening regularly. Basically, I had someone go to my door while I am out of town saying that they have a sublease to this apartment and this number, and that they were instructed for, if they couldn't get in touch with the super of the building, to call a locksmith and drill into the door and change the lock. So they did that. They brought a locksmith.
Yeah, there's a lot of scamming going on, unfortunately. And how does this pertain to real estate? We're talking about squatters, right? There was just one where the property was vacant, a very beautiful mansion in the Bethesda area, which is upclass. Somebody moved in there with a U-Haul. It's just the neighbors noticed these people are not supposed to be here, and then getting them out was a headache. Then come to find out, they're repeat offenders. They find vacant houses and then they move in. So as real estate agents or as a seller, what I always recommend is constantly check. As an agent, sometimes agents get the listing, they put the sign on the door and they barely go there. A good agent should be checking periodically. Also, if possible, sometimes it's hard to constantly go there if you're getting a lot of showings. But let's say prior to a showing, they can go in there, cut on all the lights, cut on the AC or the heat, depending on what time of the year. And after the showing, they cut it off. But it's always best to at least have eyes in there, because people can move in, vandalize, steal, or just squat, and it becomes a problem. So I always advise sellers, try to get an agent that's always going to be there checking periodically, because once people see that a house has been vacant for a while, it becomes a problem. I remember I was showing this listing in a new development. So it just got built, but most of the houses had been sold at this point. One house hadn't been sold, and as we were walking around, it just happened to be that the client's father or family member has a house in that community, so they were trying to buy a house in that community as well to get close to family. But that family member now knows that these teenagers in the neighborhood break into these vacants and throw parties. And so he walked around, and lo and behold, the screens in the back had been ripped so they can prop open the windows. At least they tried to, but This was a new construction where there was a latch from the inside that stops the window from being lifted up. So these are just things you can think about doing to prevent people from coming into your house, because they ripped the screens in the back. And if those latches weren't there holding the window from being lifted up from the inside, those latches got to get moved from the inside. If they weren't there, those kids would have probably thrown a party in that very nice new construction.
As far as why the locksmith didn't have to ask for any sort of proof that they lived there is very interesting. But they broke in. My neighbor, thank God for her, was there and intervened, not really knowing, not believing the kind of potential squatter's story that she was supposedly being scammed and she had sold someone and she had a sublease for this apartment. So my neighbor very graciously let them go sit into her apartment while they called the police. And of course, this girl's story who called the locksmith and broke in did not add up at all. She could not show proof that she was even scammed or that she sent someone money. So what we think happened is that it was a squatter and they were...
Yeah, so that's what I mentioned earlier. Having good neighbors. I wouldn't even, in this day and age, it's like people don't necessarily know their neighbors anymore. Everybody's going in and out, just, there may be a high and a buy. I think in my area, I got 2 neighbors that I would say we greet each other on a regular basis. It's not anything super close. There was one gentleman when I first bought this house. He was a neighborhood guy, but unfortunately he got older and moved to a nursing home. But at least be cordial. Sometimes their mail drops in my mailbox for some reason. I give it to them or vice versa. Just build that kind of relationship so that at least they know you. Because here, once again, it's a neighbor intruding. But let's say you got a situation where you hardly speak to your neighbors. I'm not super friendly with my neighbors. I don't want to be knocking on somebody's door here and there. I don't want them always popping up at my house either, but at least cordial. How you doing? Hi, bye. Whenever I drive off my driveway, wave and say hi to them and vice versa. But some people are very close to their neighbors, and that is a very good thing. But if you have a neighborhood where people don't speak to each other, don't even know who lives next door, that lady could have moved in her house, and when she came back from wherever she went to vacation or whatever, she would have had to deal with removing somebody. And that's another thing. Once they live there for a certain amount of time, what are the laws? Certain states just push them out instantly. Other states like New York, it might be harder, once they get in the door. So thankfully she had a good neighbor to intervene.
Trying to get into the apartment and change the lock so that we couldn't get her out. It's just something to be aware of and keep in mind. I think everyone should make sure that their neighbors have their contact information and that you know your neighbors, because I certainly have never known my neighbors. This was a complete coincidence that my neighbor had my phone number. She had spilled something on my mat, and then she had left me her phone number on a little note saying sorry that she spilled sauce on my mat. I had texted her. That was the only reason why she knew who lived there and was able to contact me. It was really scary when they called, but I got super lucky.
Yeah, that happens a lot in these bigger cities. And I would say now, I've been a homeowner for a few number of years. You build relationships with neighbors over time. In apartment complexes, people come and go. Doors are always locked. So during my time having an apartment, I had maybe 1 or 2 apartments where my neighbors were very friendly. I had this Hispanic lady next door, and she just loved cooking. She would always talk to you, I'm not a talker, but that was her thing. And I remember another neighborhood where I had a neighbor where we spoke sometimes. But for most of the time in apartments in bigger cities, I'm in the Washington, D.C. metro area, so it's a little busy. It's not the rural area. So you just go about your day. You go to work, go to school, whatever, come back in, and you don't necessarily build relationships with neighbors all the time. And also neighbors may last a year, 2 years, however your lease is, and you move to another place or they move. So you're constantly like rotating neighbors and there's no continuity. But in the neighborhood now, my neighbors have all been the same except for one lady who sold her house and the new neighbor moved in, and they're pretty friendly. They got a family, you know, and we talk here and there. But it's always good to know your neighbors. It's just very hard. I totally get what she's saying. What if that neighbor didn't spill coffee on her mat? There's not that much communication in apartment complexes. Everybody just walks in the hallway or climbs up the step, lock the door. That's at least most of the experience I've had. Every once in a while, you might run into somebody or family that you build rapport. That has happened 2 or 3 times. And sometimes you live in a neighborhood so much you build friendships, but not necessarily with somebody in your direct building. That's another thing. Anyway, this, as far as real estate goes, is be careful with squatters. If you're selling your property, if you're renting your property. So I'm always, thankfully, I don't think I've had that many listings in sketchy neighborhoods, maybe one. And what happened at that house was not the squatter. They actually cut the copper pipes from the AC unit out back, you know. So only one listing, and then they stole my sign, my for sale sign, which was, so you think it's a neighborhood where they probably have some drug addicts or something that is stealing metal things and taking it to a scrapyard. This was in a city. Not going to mention what city, but it was in a city, and I got a referral there. Sold one house there, but the other house was in a little sketchy neighborhood. The gentleman flips houses, and they stole my sign. It was just a learning experience. I always saw why, I never knew why agents hung the sign up by the window and not on the ground level. You know, learning experience. When I listed in that city, I said, oh, that's why, you know, because when you leave it down there, it may not even be people that live there. It may just be driving by or whatever. They stole the metal sign. And then later on, they cut off the copper pipes from his AC unit in the back. That's the only sketchy neighborhood story I have. But even if I have listings in good neighborhoods, as I mentioned, this one very, very nice, it was almost $800,000 or $900,000 home, and the kids in the neighborhood are breaking into these vacants and throwing parties. So you always want to kind of touch base, always go in there, just go see what's going on. Go see what's going on. It doesn't matter because I mentioned the one I saw in the news was in Bethesda. That's probably one of the most affluent areas in America, to be honest. But especially in DC, it's a very affluent area. Big mansions over there, and somebody broke into one of those with a big U-Haul van. Imagine the audacity of a squatter moving into somebody's house with a U-Haul van, and you own nothing in that house. You know, some people are very brazen, huh? But yeah, we'll wrap this up right there. I'll leave a
your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
All right, welcome everybody. And today we're going to react to a few videos here. But before we get started, if you haven't liked the channel yet, make sure you like, share, comment. That's how you help the channel grow. I really will appreciate it. And normally we talk about different topics for home buyers, home sellers, and real estate agent on your real estate podcast, the podcast that we do on this channel. It's also on most, if not all, streaming platforms. So we're just going to talk about just mistakes sometimes that homeowners make, home buyers make, contractors. But today's video, we are reacting to just the house poor thing. You hear a lot of people now talking about buying homes they cannot afford or being house poor. So without further ado, we're going to jump into that. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link down below to the original video, just to give credit to the content creator here. I don't even know if they're content creators or they're just regular human beings just sharing their story. Either way, I think it would help some of my clients out there. So if you're looking to buy or sell a house in the area, feel free to reach out to me. My information will be in the description down below. But without further ado, let's hear what these people are talking about.
I bought a house I technically can't afford. My name is Ruby. I just became a first-time home buyer, and please don't go in on me too bad when I say this, but I more than likely knew I was going to be house poor before I even bought my house.
So that's something to think about. She knew she was going to be house poor before she even bought the house. Normally, is that a smart decision? People do that sometimes. Either they're anticipating that they'll earn more money. Sometimes if you're single, you're probably thinking you'll get a partner, you'll get married. Some people are thinking they'll earn more money, they're poised to get a promotion. Others, what they really can afford, they normally don't like it, right? And as a realtor, that is probably one of the biggest issues I run into with my buyers sometimes. Not all buyers, but some buyers. They know what they can afford. You've already pre-approved them, but they want the max, or they just want a house that is going to cost them way more money than they've been approved for. Sometimes I know lenders that can work magic, right? We can ask for sellers' help. We can use programs in local municipalities, states, or the district to get you to the finish line. However, when you buy a house with all your money, I just had to tell a buyer just to hold off for a second. You know, I said, ultimately, it's your money. If you really want to go for it, go for it. But without disclosing too much, they just had so much happening, as in a new family, very poised to make a ton of money. One of the best career fields that even in a downturn, these people make money. He is in a very, very good career field, a very lucrative career field that you're going to need in any situation. Any situation. They're one of the top careers. Anyway, without saying too much, they haven't really gotten to the finish line yet, but they're this close. I'm like, look, if you really want to buy the house, we can. But if you can be patient to just get to that finish line, then you can really afford what you can. Because you don't want to move into a house, then you're struggling with all the other bills. You know, because bottom line, he could have gotten in the house a long time ago, but he wants that house that would make him and his family feel at home. So sometimes it's not a negative thing when people aspire for more, but patience, you know, being patient and going for what you really can afford is very key. Let's listen.
But before I go any further, I do want to say I don't regret it at all. Buying a house was still the best decision I've ever made. But I was already struggling when I was renting, and maybe it wasn't the smartest thing.
Yeah, buying a house is the best decision. I would say it's one of my positive decisions. Equity has built up. Then just the feeling of being a homeowner, you know. There are some downsides that come with owning a home, but just today I heard somebody's trying to rent something that is not even equivalent to my house, but for over $1,000 more. Is it 1,000? At least $600 to $700 more than I'm paying for my mortgage. It's just ridiculous how much renting is when you're paying somebody else's mortgage. Anyway, let's listen.
Maybe it wasn't the smartest thing to buy a house and add extra bills on me and add extra things on me, but hey, here we are. I bought a house solely on my income, so what I was qualified for, I pretty much had to kind of buy at the max of what I was pre-approved for. And that's because the housing market is just ridiculously expensive right now.
See, without even going too much into it, that's what I was talking about. People get pre-qualified for an amount, but they want to max it out. Nothing in this world say you have to get the best house you qualify for. Sometimes give yourself some breathing space, because here's the thing, you can always sell that home, you can always rent that home. Your first house is not your forever home. It's okay, you're already a homeowner, get your foot in the door as long as it's decent. But let's say somebody qualifies for $450,000, they're gonna go buy a house for $450,000, even $460,000, by asking for closing help, using all these programs, because they want to live like, yes, this is the house I want. But what I'll say is, there's nothing wrong with getting a $350,000 home that's decent, just for a few years until you get to where you want to go. So once again, I'll share the details to this creator right here. Should we hear the whole story? Let's go ahead and listen to the rest of it.
Now, if I would have bought a house way lower than I was pre-approved for, I would be living in a freaking shack, and that just was not possible for me. To be honest, I didn't even have a lot of money saved up when I bought.
That's what I was talking about. Lifestyle. People, and you can't fault people for desiring a good lifestyle. Some neighborhoods are just atrocious, especially if you got kids with you. You don't want to live in a bad neighborhood. So lifestyle, and you're like stuck in between a rock and a hard place. You want the really nice house, you can't really afford it, so you go to your max. But then other bills that you don't factor in, like when you rent, sometimes utilities are covered, maintenance and repair falls on the landlord. These are just all expenses that fall on you now.
Bought a house, I used my tax return, and that pretty much took the bulk of it. So after I closed, I did not really have a lot of savings. But at the end of the day, I'd rather be broke in my house than broke.
That's another thing I wanted to touch on. I mentioned that having money. What people are advised, at least $5,000 after. That is even nice, because HVACs can go from 5 to 20 to even higher. If an HVAC goes bad, depending on the roof, can easily cost you $10,000. So just buying a house with everything you have in the bank, I really advise against that. Always make sure you save.
I am not encouraging anybody
don't
to just
spend
buy a
the
house
most
with very
amount of
little money saved
you
up
have.
and very
Don't
little.
spend everything on the house, because you never know, things go wrong. Let's read some of these comments. I've been house poor since 2004. I'd be renting poor even more in California. Like owning, well, this is true. Some areas are very expensive. Girl, most people are house struggling. I guess they meant to say it's a process. Let's see what this person says here. I bought my house in 2017 making $16.50 with a car note and no savings. I wonder where that is, because that is less than the minimum wage in the state of Maryland, at least in Montgomery County. I know DC, they just bumped their minimum wage to higher than, I can't believe that, $16.50. But then again, it's 2017. But even that, I've been in my house 10 years and I make more than double that hourly, almost 20K saved. Okay, that's good. Just wait it on, hon. When rates drop, you will already have a home to refinance. There you go. Everyone else will be fighting over available homes for those low rates. When rates drop, that is something. The rate's gonna drop. We don't know. But anyway, to summarize, just make sure you buy a house that you can afford. Make sure you buy a house that you can afford. Have some extra saved up. And I do get it, especially in the DMV. Houses are very, very expensive. And if you want a nice neighborhood, especially if you are a parent and you want your kids to be in a nice neighborhood, sometimes you gotta max what you qualify for. But buying a house with a tax return, I don't necessarily recommend that, but to each his own. Some of the comments here are very encouraging. If the rates drop, you can refinance and get some money. This is true. But the way these rates have been high for multiple years now, only God knows when they'll drop, because what we're seeing as high rates right now, quite frankly, if you talk to older people, these are low rates. Back in the day, 7, 8, 10% was the norm. And we are at between 6 to 7s, and we're screaming and because we saw those pandemic rates. It's not always the same anymore. Things have changed. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
Welcome everybody to the YouTube channel, and today we're going to talk about contractors from hell, right? Or home builders from hell. I have dealt with contractors and realtors and home builders from hell. There was one home, we went there right down the street. It looked very nice, but right on the window, man, we were getting ready to write an offer. Right on the window, we saw the stop work order from the county. Everything was brand new, but they did all of that without getting permits. And then the county slapped the stop work there. So guess what? I don't think they had enough money to gut it out and redo it per county code. So they just wanted to sell it and let you take the headache. And I had to tell my buyer, hey, I wouldn't do that. You never know how much of this you got to redo. So you do have some builders from hell and contractors from hell that don't get the right permits. But anyway, let's watch a few of these videos. I practice in Maryland and the District of Columbia, not licensed in Virginia, just DC and Maryland. So if you're looking to sell and buy in DC or Maryland, I'm your guy. And also make sure you like, share, and that's how you help the channel grow. Let's get started.
After nightmare situation just got so much worse. Like, holy God, so much worse. This is the brand new egress window that they just installed, y'all. And that is all of the mud that washed into my house through the egress window the very first time that it rained, like 3 days after they installed the window. It flooded all the way up to the middle point of the window.
So this is interesting here that she said rain. And this is what I tell home buyers, and it's sometimes you need some stroke of luck, right? Because this was not, I got a story where it's not a builder, but it was an inspector. They did the inspection, they said, okay, the roof may need to be replaced in a few years. Buyer loved the house, everything else was repaired. As soon as the buyer went in there, it rained. Water just gushed through the roof. The whole attic, everything was bad. Everything was bad. And can you imagine, as a realtor, yeah, I closed the deal already, but these are my clients. How are they gonna feel? So I had to just fight and make sure they get their just due, that the inspector came through and got that roof fixed, because it's like, you said it'll hold up for a little bit, but you didn't say the roof was leaking, So these are just things to think about. As soon as they fix the egress window, it's leaking and raining in there. That's just what came to mind there.
Flooded. That was standing water. That is why there is sediment on the glass halfway up. But that's not all. It also flooded in under the wall and into the next room, which I am now have lined with boxes because I'm frantically trying to get everything, out of the damage area and someplace where it's safer. Because now the entire space in my basement that I use Ouch. Because now the entire space that I run my side hustle out of in my basement coated in, again, a thick ass layer of mud that washed in from the outside thanks to the contractors that I hired to fix the mine.
Yeah, I'm gonna skip this video. A little too much profanity for me, but what I'll say is, just in Maryland we have a website where you can go and look at all agents, contractors that are licensed, you know. So just always use licensed contractors. I understand her frustration. It's like water just gushed in and there's a whole lot of damage to property. What I'll say, and when you're trying to sell your house and you want somebody to repair it, or even as a homeowner, you can get away with a little bit of DIY, but there are certain things that needs to be up to code. There are certain things that you need a licensed professional to do. There are certain things you got to run by the county. For instance, if your home is built prior to 1978 and you're doing any construction that requires a certain amount of space to be damaged, you need a licensed professional as far as that can mitigate lead-based paint. So these are all things you need to worry about. Get the right contractor is all I'll say.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
How much house can you afford today, right? The honest answer is it depends on your income, debt, down payment, credit score, and interest rates. Most lenders still use the 28-36 rule as a starting point. Housing costs should stay below 28% of your gross income, and all debt combined below 36% of your income. So they do that and see where you are. Quick 2026 affordability estimates, you'll say good credit score, and you'll say 20% down. That's the max. I wouldn't say the max, but at least for conventional. Typically, mortgage rates are around the mid 6% right now. So minimal other debts, right? So let's say your annual household income. These are just approximates. It's not etched in stone. But if your annual household income is about $50,000, you probably can afford between $160,000 to $220,000 of a house. Once again, this is all predicated on other expenses and also where you live, you know, and your debts, right? Minimal, you say your annual household income around $75,000, you're now looking at $250,000 to the $320,000 range. If your annual household income is $100,000, you're looking at $340,000 to $400,000. Once again, this all depends on your lifestyle. If you have a $1,000 or $1,500 car note, then you got to drop that house affordability, right? But let's say all things being equal, you don't have a lot of debt. These are the approximate home prices. If you're making about $125,000, you can afford between $430,000 to $500,000, right? If you're making $150K, you're looking at $525,000 to approximately $600,000. And if you're making $200,000, you're looking at $700,000 plus. So if your household income is $100,000 a year, a comfortable monthly payment is roughly $2,300 a month, which generally supports your home price around $340,000 or $400,000, depending on your taxes, your insurance, your down payment, right? Because the more you put down, the less you got to pay monthly. Don't forget cost of, property taxes. We talked about those. Homeowners insurance, HOA fees, maintenance, repairs, and then utility bills, right? Because these are all other costs you're going to add with that. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what you can afford in this market right now, right? Things change if interest rates go down or they go up. How much house do you really need? You know, how much money do you really need to buy a house? Common misconception is that you need 20% down to buy a house. In reality, many buyers purchase homes with much less. I see that a lot now. There's this conventional 3%. Conventional 3% because back in the day when the 20% standard was set, homes were affordable. Even if they were not super affordable, at least the cost of living was lower. So if you make $60,000, $70K, $100,000, you can really afford something nice back in the day. You know, somebody once came and said $140,000 is just breaking even in the poverty line, just the way things are expensive. So now a lot of lenders knowing 20% of a $400,000 house, that's a lot of money. Right? When you think about that, it's like $80,000. Lenders know people don't necessarily save up to 80 grand to buy a house. So they made this conventional 3% where it's $12,000 more feasible, right? So we stick with that number, $400,000. You know, 3% down would be $12,000. 5% down would be $20,000, and 20% down would be $80,000. Closing costs, as mentioned, will be usually between 2 to 5% of the purchase price. These can include lender fees, title fees, appraisals, taxes, and insurance. You know, for a $400,000 home, expect roughly to have $8,000 to $20,000 extra, you know, in closing costs. This is separate from your down payment. So you got to add that 8 to 20 grand plus that down payment, right? So next thing we're going to talk about is moving and initial home expenses, moving costs. Do you need to rent a truck, hire people to help you move, or do you have your buddies that are going to help you do that? Utility deposits, you know, minor repairs, furniture and appliances. Are you buying a home with all new appliances, or would you have to replace some of those? Would you need to furnish? What I see sometimes, people buy these big mansions and they just move in what they have, and as they live in there, they slowly furnish the different rooms. I saw that with multiple people I knew. One person purchased a house for about 700 grand, brand new construction. By the time it got done building, it was worth 100 grand. So they bought the house, moved in with 300K in equity already. They didn't have enough money to furnish the entire house. They came from a townhouse to their forever home. So they just moved their townhouse furniture in certain places. And then as time progressed, they just furnished the rest of the house. And I saw that with another family I knew, pretty well to do. They bought $1 million home, but once again, they had a townhome. They just moved that furniture there. And a couple of years later, when I went to go see them, the whole house was furnished. It took time, right? So that can be a strategy. Real world example, for instance, for a $400,000 house, you put 3% down, that's $12,000. Closing cost is about $10,000. Move-in / setup cost would be another 3 grand. So total needed would be approximately 25 to 30 grand. Once again, these are rough estimates. I can tell you when I purchased my house, I needed a little less than that, but mine, you know, so that was also in the pandemic time when interest rates were super good, right? So many first-time home buyers qualify for down payment assistance programs that can significantly reduce the cash you need to close. And in this market now, it's leaning more towards the buyers. So if you see a house that's been on the market for a while and the seller's motivated and you don't want to, you know, give them a low ball offer, where you can have some leverage is give them asking price a little below it, and then also ask for some seller's help that can help you. So follow up like crazy. And this speaks to you, but also to me. I think if there's anywhere I need to tune up a little bit, is just follow up. I've been a lot better this year, but in previous years, I'll say I would engage so much then I just think, oh man, I don't want to bother this person. I don't want to bother this person. Then guess what? You look up on the market, the house is on sale. And you like, man, that could have been my listing. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. That is how you help the channel grow. And also, if you're looking to buy, sell your house in Maryland or DC, my contact information is in the description below. Thank you. But you didn't engage. Sometimes when I win listings, you get a good conversation, I stop by just to drop a mail, and then your eyes open up like, oh, this person is very serious. So just follow up like crazy. Phone calls, personalized video messages, emails, text. Don't always knock on people's doors, but sometimes it really works. Some people don't like that. Personally, I don't like that. When I'm home, I don't like to be bothered at the door, but it can work sometimes. It has worked for me sometimes. Sometimes I piss people off. But just follow up like crazy. The win is in the follow up. They say sometimes in this day and age, just the way in which people's attention is being pulled into a million different areas. They say you got to touch base, let's say with somebody maybe 21 times on average to convert them. So we're talking hand mailing, we're talking maybe a postcard, maybe a text message, maybe a happy 4th of July, maybe a happy birthday if it's a past client, just whatever it may be. Just they need to see you a few times, and they see your video here, they see an email here, a text message there. But you got to be very strategic. People buy more when they feel as though they reached out to you. When you come across as the snake oil salesman or the used car salesman, you turn people off. So just, let's say for instance, you want to follow up with somebody who told you, hey, I'll be selling my house in 6 months. I'm not ready yet. When you call them, you just say, hello, how you doing? You told me you were going to sell your house in about 6 months. Has that changed, or is that still the plan? And if they say, oh yeah, that's still the plan, is there anything I can do to help you out? Like send some vendors through, some inspectors, appraisals. I could refer you to a few people that, may help you with some repairs. Offer service. And you say, oh no, I'm good for now. All right, well, if there's anything you'd like me to help you with, feel free to reach out. Or when you wrap up, you just say, I'll send you just the market update, just to show you the comps in your area, to show you exactly what's selling in your area. Or you just point them to the difference between the big old websites and your local expertise. Hey, I know these websites say your house may be worth this much, but here's what they're missing. This house that sold in your neighborhood didn't have this or had that. You show them something that a big website cannot show them. Your personal knowledge of the neighborhood. So those are just ways you follow up. You don't follow up in trying to just sell somebody. I don't like to be sold, so I try not to do that. Sometimes, yeah, you gotta ABC in sales. People always say always be closing. Yes, closed mouths don't get fed. You gotta ask for something eventually, but you want to work your way there gradually. Hope that makes sense.
Ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.
All right, welcome everybody. And today we're going to react to a few videos here. But before we get started, if you haven't liked the channel yet, make sure you like, share, comment. That's how you help the channel grow. I really will appreciate it. Today's video, we are reacting to just the being house poor thing. You hear a lot of people now talking about buying homes they cannot afford or being house poor. So without further ado, we're going to jump into that. And what I'll do is I'll leave a link down below to the original video. just to give credit to the content creator here. I don't even know if they're content creators or they're just regular human beings just sharing their story. Either way, I think it would help some of my clients out there. So if you're looking to buy or sell a house in the area, feel free to reach out to me. My information will be in the description down below. But without further ado, let's hear what these people are talking about.
Bought a house that we could not afford. I don't mean like tight budget afford. I mean we had no idea what it actually cost every month. $700,000 in Los Angeles County.
So that is very key what she just said there. $750,000 in Los Angeles County. I can totally relate to that as far as the cost of homes here in Maryland. Certain areas can match that easily, right? Anywhere, not anywhere, but let me be clear. Let's say Northern Virginia, you got some homes that can definitely match that, and you're not even going to be in some kind of super mansion. You go to Bethesda, some parts of Annapolis, right? 750 can get you something really nice in a not so popular neighborhood, but in the top neighborhoods here, I can totally see that. And what she said here is she didn't know the total cost, and that's sometimes that falls on the lender. As a realtor, when you deal with a good realtor, they make sure the lender breaks down your actual cost to you. You know, because you got the loan, but you know your mortgage, but your actual cost, your realtor, that's the job of the lender really, to give you the cost of the house and also the escrow and all these things. But a good real estate agent would know the extra cost and additional cost, and they will help point them out to you. So for instance, another thing that can normally happen is taxes go up. You know, I bought my house and my mortgage was at a certain rate. Houses have appreciated. Guess what? My mortgage went up just based on taxes, even though I got a fixed mortgage, you know. So not knowing the actual cost, especially where she's talking about the taxes are going to be crazy high, and then just maintenance is going to be high as well. So these are all things you want to get into. Make sure you really know the actual cost, you know, when you get your, and it's two people. You may hang your head together and say, oh, we are very young, we buy a house now, we're going to be ready. This is true. But cost of living is just so expensive, and nobody could afford told that we'll be in this constant inflation. There'll be a war in Iraq, and the economy, the gas prices will go high. Here they're at 5. Sometimes you hear in California, prices for gas is going all the way up to $6 a gallon. So when you think about all those extra costs, these all play in a factor in purchasing a house. So what I advise buyers all the time is make sure your lender gives you a breakdown of escrow, taxes, your HOA fees. Then you factor in a certain percentage as far as in utilities. Is a home energy efficient? If not, then just look up how much it may cost you to run this house as far as energy and your monthly energy bill, right? And then how do you get water? Is it public? If it's public, then you got to factor that in, your monthly water bill. And then, because some people, half of America uses well water, just so you know. Then also, just other maintenances. If you got, you know, we talked about lawn care, right? No, but just lawn care. If you got a big yard, are you a professional? Are you always busy? Are you going to be able to cut your own grass and take care of your own lawn? These are all just things people don't factor in. You know, when you're in an apartment, you drive in, the grass is cut. Some utilities are paid, but when you own your home, you do all of that. So just think about that before buying a house, all right?
And it made me broke. Everyone is constantly talking about how you need to buy a house, you need to buy a house. I I don't think that's true for everybody, and let me be a cautionary tale for you. And if you don't know me, my name's Kelsey. I bought a house and it made me broke.
So here's the thing, like what she said there, right? Everybody's saying you need to buy a house. Don't live your life trying to appease other people. Don't live your life based on what everybody is doing. Don't live your life based on what everybody says. You know, this is your life. You live it according to you. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Nobody knows your finances, your plans, your budget for them to just force this upon you. Buying a house shouldn't come based on what people think or your emotional desires. It should come based on your financial position. You know, this is something you need to talk with a financial advisor, talk with a lender, a good real estate agent, see where you are, and then make a move that's an educated move. Take the emotion out of it.
And I am working on a ton of side hustles in order to increase my emergency fund so I no longer feel broke. When I bought my house, I had a fully funded emergency fund. I was really financially prepared for this purchase. I had been saving up.
So emergency fund, some people say it's 3 to 6 months of money that you can live off of if you were to lose your job today. Let's say you lose your job today, you need about 6 months of paying bills. That's what that emergency fund is. So I like that, but sadly in America today, not everybody is going to have that emergency fund. You know, but that's the right way to think about it. Have your emergency fund even after you purchase a home. But as you heard, she purchased the home and then depleted her emergency fund. Some people don't care about an emergency fund. I really think it's important. Nobody knows tomorrow. You don't know, anything can happen. So it's always good to have that cushion there. I don't know how true these stats are, but you hear it quoted all the time. Most Americans cannot handle a $500 emergency. And when you think about an emergency fund, you're talking about 6 months of rent, food, clothing, everything, transportation. So it's a really good thing to have, right?
For this purchase for 5 years. So this was not an impulse decision by any means. I ended up getting approved for a house like almost twice as much as the current house I'm sitting in that I purchased. So
that is very good right there. And that's what I was stressing to most buyers. So she was approved for, let's say, an $800,000 house. She bought one for $400,000. But still, you see, even though she bought a house less, half of what she qualified for, she still got tight financially, just because of all the extra things that come with buying a house. And the economy, you can't predict those things, right? The inflation. So just imagine if she would have maxed out on all what she qualified for. She wouldn't be saying I'm broke. She'd probably be saying, oh, I'm going into foreclosure. So very smart of her to actually plan. She said she planned it out for 5 years. That is a good way to strategize. And that's why she's saying I'm broke, but she still can afford the house. You know, it's just the emergency fund got depleted. So when all things are considered, she's still in a better situation than a lot of people.
So I didn't make an irresponsible decision necessarily. I just ended up hitting a string of really bad luck when I purchased my house. And I think people...
And that's what I was trying to tell you guys in another video and earlier, is you cannot tell the future. So when you purchase a house, just give yourself some cushion. Sad to say, some people say it's true, some people say it's not. They say things happen in threes. I'm not superstitious, so I don't believe in those things. But in my life, I have experienced fortune. Just it's like, wow, I can't miss. Everything I touch turns to gold. Then you get into a stretch where you just feel like the world is against you. And we are all humans. We all experience these ups and downs. And that's what she's talking about. Right after she purchased the house, a lot of things went left. And she found herself in the hole. So the key here is plan out your life, plan it out properly, save up, even for the worst. They say hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. All right?
Do not think about that when they're going into a large purchase, like buying a home. So I buy the house, but then I was hit with around $53,000 of random expenses in my life all at once within a span of 6 to 8 months. There's a lot that happened all at once. And when you buy that house, you think you're done with the large expenses. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. And on top of it, my fixed costs exploded overnight, which I expected. I had calculated for that when going into this home purchase. So that wasn't a surprise, but on top of all of the other life emergencies that were going on and financial drain that was happening, it was just way too much and I could not handle it all at once. Budgeting was...
All right, well, we're going to stop it right there. Let's read some comments here. It says, I'm house poor, but I love my house. I'm going to die there. This is my biggest fear. The houses in my budget are crap, and my budget isn't small, so I quit and I said not for me. Trust me, I deal with buyers all the time. I got qualified buyers with pre-approval letters. We just can't get them a house because the houses in that budget they don't like. They want a house, but in this area right here, average homes are $400,000. That's average, right? And people, you know, if you qualify for 300 grand, you may not be happy with what you qualify for. Maybe a condo, maybe a small townhouse, and it just affects people. So yeah, it says, and everything is so expensive, all repairs $3K plus. I regret buying my house. I am in escrow at the moment and have had to push back closing date twice already. This time has made me really think if I can afford it or if I'm ready for it. I don't know what to do. Well, here's the thing. The last closing I had, thank God I was on the listing side, but we had to push closing date because of the lender and escrow and all these other things. Think about that when you're buying a house, guys. The economy is not where it once was. Interest rates are not where they were. And also inflation, gas prices, everything just seems so expensive. So just be very careful and mindful of your finances before buying a house.